Hey there, Hard Knock University crew. Welcome to episode 9 of the Hard Knock University podcast. I'm your host, Mark Caples.
Oh, hi, Mark.
And today we're diving headfirst into the art of adaptation. Life's a wild ride, and even the best laid plans, they're gonna fall apart sometimes. We're unpacking chapter 8 of my book, The Hard Knock School of Project Management, with lesson 7, The Best Plans Will Still Fall Apart. And trust me, this one's a game changer. We've got Speechify bringing the chapter to life in the voice of Gwyneth Paltrow.
I'm Gwyneth Paltrow.
Because why not add a little Hollywood flair to our hard-learned lessons? Then we're cracking open Immunity to Change by Robert Keegan for our book of the week. Think deep insights on why adapting isn't just a skill, it's survival. Plus, I'm sitting down with serial entrepreneur Chris Day, who's built a career out of pivoting when the going gets tough. And then stick around for some listener stories that'll hit you right in the gut. And we'll wrap it all up with some final thoughts to keep you fired up. Ready to learn how to roll with the punches? Let's do this.
So that's all that happened to me today. I learned the hard way. Actually, it was a good learning experience for me.
It's called process. You never want to stop learning, because if you do,
You die, right?
in many ways.
I don't understand why you insist on learning things the hard way, Trey, but you gonna learn. Oh yeah, you gonna learn.
I'm not afraid, Mr. Burr. My mind will protect me. I'm a man of science, a man of learning, a man who knows how to buy the finest books.
You're listening to the Hard Knock University podcast. We're sharing hard lessons, learn the hard way. Everyone is welcome here. All we ask is that you bring an open mind and a good attitude.
But on the other hand, man, I just as soon keep working, keep a little change in my pocket.
What's up, everyone? Before we jump into today's episode, let's take a quick stroll down memory lane to last week's adventure.
Pepperidge Farm remembers.
I don't.
Episode 8, The Universal Translator. If you missed it, you might want to double back because we tackled one of the most underrated skills in project management, speaking everyone's language. Yes, even deciphering those emails that somehow say everything except for what they actually mean. We cracked open chapter 7 of the Hard Knock School of Project Management, lesson 6. You're a translator for everyone and everything.
And this is my universal translator. Unfortunately, so far it only translates into an incomprehensible dead language. Hello.
Bonjour.
Crazy gibberish.
And we broke down why half your job is basically being a human Rosetta Stone. We also took a deep dive into Exactly What to Say by Phil M. Jones, a book that proves the right words can either seal the deal or send your project straight into the abyss. And if that wasn't enough, we sat down with interior designer Caroline Monsignor, who shared how she turns client confusion into jaw-dropping results. Spoiler, it involves less mind reading and more strategic communication. So if you skipped that one, episode 8 is sitting there ready to drop some wisdom on you. But for now, let's shift gears and dive into today's episode, The Art of Adaptation. But first, a quick recap of my week, which, trust me, was a lesson in adaptation all on its own.
I have been stabbed, shot, poisoned, frozen, hung, electrocuted, and burned.
Oh, really?
And every morning I wake up without a scratch on me, not a dent in the fender. I am an immortal.
My week. All right, Hard Knock University, welcome to my week. Just a little peek into the chaos that is my life. The highs, the lows, and everything in between. If you're here for the hard knocks, you might as well see where they come from, right? So this week started with a fortune cookie that I swear was trolling me. I cracked it open and it says, "Your next Chinese meal will bring you more cookies." Yeah, no kidding. Pretty sure that's how takeout works. But then I flip it over and the back says, "No one can compete with you on being you." Okay, those are deep thoughts from the cookie factory, but honestly, who would want to be me?
I don't.
Much less compete with me on being me. I'm over here juggling project management lessons and podcast scripts. Hard pass. Speaking of juggling, economy's feeling a little shaky lately. I was reading this article from Newsweek, came out just last week, titled What a Recession Would Mean for the Housing Market in 2025. They're saying a recession could hit this year and it might cool down the home building and remodeling world in a big fashion. Experts think it could drop home prices and mortgage rates, which sounds great for buyers, but it's got me worried about projects just slowing down in the meantime. And I mean, I got plans. People, don't mess with my timeline. And then, so Mother Nature decided to throw a curveball. We had a haboob roll through Texas. Yeah, a legit dust storm. It turned my pop-up carport into a kite. Last I saw, it was halfway to Oklahoma. Out in West Texas, it flipped nearly 100 18-wheelers like they were toys. And up northeast of Fredericksburg, it fueled a massive fire. And I'm telling you, it was like the universe said, hey, your plans? Yeah, no, not today. Just another week of adapting on the fly. Guess it fits the theme, though. All right, Hard Knock University listeners, it's time to dive into the heart of this episode, our chapter review. Today, we're tackling Chapter 8 of the Hard Knock School of Project Management, where we unpack Lesson 7, The Best Plans Will Still Fall Apart. This chapter is all about the messy, unpredictable reality of projects and how adaptability can turn chaos into triumph. We're bringing this one to life in style using Speechify to narrate it in the voice of Gwyneth Paltrow. Picture her cool, calm vibe guiding us through the twists and turns of The Old House Reborn, a renovation project that went from a tidy 18-week plan to an 18-month odyssey of pivots and perseverance. So settle in and let's hear Gwyneth take us through this lesson in flexibility, resilience, and the art of adaptation.
Chapter 8. Lesson 7. The best plans will still fall apart. The measure of intelligence is the ability to change. Albert Einstein. Experience is the teacher of all things. Julius Caesar. The Art of Pivoting. Revisiting the success of the Old House Reborn. We are reminded of a lesson as old as time. Even the best laid plans can unravel. The project began with clear, concise objectives, a budget of $202,000 and a timeline of 18 weeks. However, as is often the case with renovations, the reality was far from what was initially envisioned. The journey started with what seemed like a straightforward contract, but soon the first cracks appeared in the form of permit delays. The local authorities, meticulous in their oversight, required an extended review period for each phase of the renovation. What should have been a routine approval stretched into weeks, then months, significantly altering the project's momentum. Compounding the delay, the wait for architectural drawings was equally protracted. Each amendment and correction added layers of time, turning an expected architectural blueprint into a saga of patience and perseverance. The initial plans, which had promised an elegant rebirth of the old house, now seemed like distant dreams as the weeks turned into months. The true test of the renovation's resolve came when the walls were finally opened. Hidden within the structure, long obscured from view, was evidence of previous fire damage. This discovery necessitated not just repair, but reconstruction, escalating both the complexity and cost of the project. Just when it seemed that the project had weathered its worst storms, another surprise lay in wait beneath the ground. A routine check of the water meter at the street revealed a leak in the main water line leading to the house. Discovering leaks is not unusual in homes as old as this one, which stood for a century. However, upon digging up the line, the team was confronted with a far more severe issue. The pipe, brittle with age, had not merely a single fracture but a continuous crack running down its entire length. This wasn't a situation for mere repair. It demanded a complete replacement of the water line. This unexpected revelation added another layer of complexity to an already tangled project. The excavation, replacement, and subsequent backfilling of the new waterline significantly inflated both the cost and the time frame. The project's schedule became even more flexible, bending to accommodate this new, critical, and costly necessity. The team had to coordinate with utility companies, manage roadworks, and ensure that the water supply was rerouted temporarily, all while keeping the project on track for completion. The budget, once thought to be comfortably within $202,000, ballooned to $309,000 as new, unforeseen expenses emerged. This story of the old house reborn is a testament to the unpredictability of such endeavors. Yet it also underscores the critical importance of having a plan, not just in its conception, but in its adaptability. The plan unraveled, but success was salvaged through adaptive strategies. Flexibility became the team's mantra as they learned to pivot, adjusting their approach to incorporate new findings and necessities. This meant revising timelines, reallocating budgets, and sometimes rethinking the project's scope. Team motivation was kept high through transparency, where each setback was presented as a new challenge rather than a defeat. Regular updates with all stakeholders ensured everyone was on the same page, reducing frustration and aligning expectations with reality. Additionally, each delay in discovery was documented, not just as a record of what went wrong, but as a blueprint for future projects. This approach turned obstacles into lessons, ensuring that the next renovation would be approached with greater wisdom. In the end, the house was reborn, not just structurally, but as a symbol of what can be achieved when plans fail, but adaptability prevails. The project, now over 18 months in the making, was a success because it embraced the fluid nature of reality over rigid adherence to an original plan. This chapter of The Old House Reborn teaches us that success in any venture isn't about preventing plans from falling apart, but about how we rebuild them when they do. The Art of Adaptation. The principle of embracing flexibility emerges as the cornerstone of success for this project. When the project encountered the unexpected, from permit delays to the discovery of hidden fire damage and the extensive waterline replacement, the initial plan was no longer viable. However, instead of viewing these challenges as setbacks, the team reframed them as opportunities for adaptation. Flexibility was not just about bending to the will of circumstances. It was about actively reshaping the project to fit a new reality. This meant renegotiating terms with suppliers, contractors, and even with the vision for the house itself. The team learned to see changes not as failures, but as part of the creative process of renovation. Each new issue was met with a collaborative spirit, brainstorming sessions became the norm, and the project's direction was often adjusted in real time based on the latest developments. This approach required a mindset shift from one of rigid adherence to plans to one of dynamic response to the environment. It meant having backup plans for backup plans, ensuring that when one path closed, another was already open. This mindset fostered resilience, as the team was never caught without a strategy, even if it wasn't the one we started with. The essence of embracing flexibility in this project was not just about surviving the unexpected, but thriving through it. The house's rebirth was a testament to the power of adaptability, where every twist and turn in the project's path contributed to its final, unique character. This flexibility also kept the team motivated, as each challenge was an adventure, a chance to prove their ingenuity and commitment to the project's vision, from setbacks to celebrations. In the face of the many challenges that the Old House Reborn project threw at the team, maintaining motivation was crucial. The journey from a $202,000 budget with an 18-week timeline to a $309,000 expenditure over 18 months was fraught with potential demoralization. Yet, what kept the team's spirit alive was a multifaceted approach to motivation. First, transparency became a tool for motivation. Every team member was kept in the loop regarding the project status, the reasons behind delays, and the strategic decisions made in response to new challenges. This openness fostered a sense of ownership and involvement, transforming potential frustrations into collective problem-solving sessions. The team wasn't just executing a plan. They were part of crafting the solution to each new obstacle. Second, celebrating small victories became a ritual. In a project where the finish line seemed to keep moving further away, acknowledging the completion of each phase, no matter how small, was vital. These celebrations, whether through a simple team lunch or a moment of recognition in meetings, reinforced a sense of progress and accomplishment, counteracting the weight of the overall delay. Lastly, the vision of the project was consistently revisited and reimagined. The team wasn't just renovating a house, they were part of a story of rebirth, of bringing something old into a new era. This narrative was used to inspire, reminding everyone that their work was not just about bricks and mortar, but about legacy and transformation. This connection to a larger purpose gave the daily grind a deeper meaning, turning mundane tasks into contributions to something enduring. Through these strategies, the team's motivation was not just maintained but invigorated, turning what could have been a disheartening project into one of collective achievement and pride. Blueprints of dialogue. Communication was the lifeline of the project, especially when the path became fraught with unexpected turns. Effective communication was not just about keeping everyone informed. It was about creating a shared understanding, aligning expectations, and fostering a collaborative environment where every voice was heard. The first pillar of this communication strategy was regular, structured updates. Weekly meetings became a staple where progress, setbacks, and strategic shifts were discussed openly. These weren't just status reports, they were forums for dialogue where questions were encouraged, and every team member, from architects to laborers, could voice concerns or suggest solutions. This inclusivity ensured that no one felt out of the loop, reducing the risk of misinformation and the frustration that often comes with it. Another aspect was the use of clear, accessible language across all communications. Technical jargon was minimized to ensure that everyone, regardless of their role, understood the project's current state and future plans. This clarity was crucial when dealing with complex issues like permit delays, structural surprises, or utility line replacements, making sure that decisions were understood and supported by all. Additionally, the project embraced the power of visual communication. Diagrams, updated blueprints, and even simple sketches help to convey changes in plans or to explain the impact of new discoveries like the extensive fire damage. This visual aid was especially effective in keeping everyone aligned with the project's evolving vision, making abstract concepts tangible and understandable. Lastly, communication extended beyond the team to include stakeholders like the homeowners, local authorities, and suppliers. Establishing regular, transparent dialogue with these groups ensured that external expectations were managed, support was garnered, and resources were mobilized effectively when needed. This broader communication network also helped in navigating the bureaucratic landscape, speeding up processes that might have otherwise lingered. Through these communication strategies, the Old House Reborn project not only navigated its challenges, but did so with a unified team, clear objectives, and a community of support behind them. The classroom of challenges. The Old House Reborn project was a profound lesson in learning from experience, turning each challenge into a stepping stone for future success. This wasn't just about fixing problems as they arose, but about embedding the wisdom gained from each issue into the very fabric of the project management process. First and foremost, every unexpected event, from permit delays to uncovering hidden structural damage and the catastrophic waterline failure, was meticulously documented. This wasn't just record keeping. It was about creating a knowledge base that could serve as a guide for future projects. My job log captured not only what went wrong, but why, how it was addressed, and what could be done differently next time. This approach transformed setbacks into invaluable lessons. Additionally, we embraced the concept of reflective practice. After each major phase or significant issue, the team would gather, not just to celebrate completion, but to reflect on the journey. These sessions were crucial for identifying what worked well and what didn't, encouraging a culture where mistakes were seen as opportunities for growth rather than failures to be hidden. This reflective practice helped in refining processes, from how to engage with local authorities for permits to better anticipating structural surprises. Lastly, we adopted a forward-thinking approach by integrating these lessons into future planning. This meant updating training materials, revising project management templates, and even influencing how future contracts were structured to account for the potential of similar issues. By doing so, the experience of the Old House Reborn became a legacy, not just in the physical sense of the renovated structure, but in the methodology of handling complex renovation projects. Through learning from experience, we can ensure that the pain of unexpected challenges will not be repeated, but will instead pave the way for smoother, more informed, and successful renovations in the future. It was an entire 18-month course in project management via the School of Hard Knocks.
Wow, doesn't Gwyneth just make everything sound a little more enlightened?
No. Well, yet.
That was chapter 8 of the Hard Knock School of Project Management, and what a ride it was. The Old House Reborn started with a solid $202,000 budget and an 18-week timeline, only to hit permit delays, hidden fire damage, busted water line, and a final tab of $309,000 over 18 months. The lesson: plans fall apart. It's inevitable. But success isn't about sticking to the script. It's about adapting when the script gets torched. The team pivoted with flexibility. We kept morale high with transparency and small wins, and turned every setback into a lesson for the future. That's the art of adaptation in action, embracing the chaos and building something stronger from it. Now let's keep the momentum going. Up next is our book of the week, where we're diving into Immunity to Change by Robert Keegan. This gem digs into why adapting is so hard and how we can break through our own barriers to make it happen. It's the perfect companion to Lesson 7, so stick around as we connect the dots between project management and personal growth.
Count of Monte Cristo.
That's Cristo, you dumb shit.
By Alexandre Dumas.
Okay, this week we're cracking open Immunity to Change by Robert Keegan and Lisa Laskow-Lahey. A book that's deeper than a Texas well and twice as revealing. Like a good old-fashioned therapy session, but without the awkward couch. This isn't your typical self-help fluff. It's a hard-hitting dive into why we and our teams resist change, even when we know it's what's best. Keegan and Lahey unpack this hidden resistance like detectives in a crime show, showing us how our minds can sabotage our goals with sneaky little traps that we don't even see coming. Their big idea: we've all got these invisible immunities, mental barriers built from old habits, fears, and beliefs that keep us stuck, no matter how badly we want to move forward. They lay out a step-by-step process to spot these blocks, figure out what's really driving them, and then flip the script to break free. So tools like mapping your improvement goal against your hidden commitments, like wanting to delegate more, but secretly fearing that you'll turn into a control freak with a clipboard. There's also digging into the big assumptions, those gut-level beliefs holding you back, like thinking chaos equals failure. Spoiler alert, it does not. You got to test those assumptions with small, safe experiments, because sometimes you got to dip your toe in before you go full-on cannonball into the deep end of change. And this isn't just theory. It's gritty, practical stuff. Now, full disclosure, I didn't love this book. It's smart, no question, but it reads like a research paper. It's dry, it's dense, and honestly, I felt like I was slogging through a textbook half the time. If you're into academic vibes and you don't mind the lack of pizzazz, this might work for you, but I'm not recommending it unless you've got a strong coffee and a lot of patience. Still, the ideas, they're worth wrestling with, even if the delivery drags on. Now let's tie this into project management, because this is where it gets real. As PMs, we're not just juggling timelines and budgets, we're steering people through chaos. And half the time, it's our resistance that's the roadblock. Chapter 8 showed us that plans fall apart like a cheap tent in a storm, but Immunity to Change gives us the playbook for adapting when they do. And it's Harvard Business Review Press. So, do you got a team freaking out over a scope change? Well, use Keegan's map to uncover why they're digging in their heels. Maybe it's less about the change and more about a fear of looking like they're unprepared for what's next. Staring down a blown deadline because you didn't pivot fast enough? Okay. Ask yourself, what's my hidden commitment here? Are you clinging to the original plan because you're scared of admitting it's off track and hoping that no one notices that you're just winging it? Do you have a client pushing back on every plan? Dig into their assumptions. Maybe they're immune to change because they think flexibility equals failure. and then test it with a small win to shift their mindset. I don't know, offering them a cookie if they agree to a minor adjustment. But this book's like a Swiss Army knife for project managers. It's all about getting under the hood of why we resist and then tweaking the engine so we can roll with the punches like a pro. Less fighting the inevitable and more mastering the art of adaptation. It vibes perfectly with our Art of Adaptation theme this week. Plans crumbled? Okay, cool. That's just the classroom of Hard Knocks opening session. Keegan and Leahy show us how to stop tripping over our own feet and start dancing with the chaos instead, hopefully without stepping on anyone's toes. For you listeners out there managing projects, think about this. Next time your timeline's slipping or costs are spiking, don't just muscle through. Pause and ask yourself, what am I secretly committed to that's keeping me rigid? What's the assumption that I'm afraid to let go of? That's the project management gold in immunity to change. It's about adapting not just your plan, but your mindset. Even if the book itself didn't thrill me, that lesson's a keeper. Up next, we're bringing in serial entrepreneur Chris Day to talk about pivoting through life's curveballs. Stay tuned for more laughs and more insights. Welcome to the Hard Knock University podcast, where we delve into the tales of triumph and tribulation that shape the world of project management, entrepreneurship, and innovation. Today, we have a guest whose journey embodies the essence of resilience, adaptation, and the art of pivoting. Christopher Day is a serial entrepreneur known for founding the San Antonio Exotic Plant Collective, Father Nature's Unique Botanicals, and managing Rich Wolf Club Investments. He's also the author of Roots and Shoots, Complete Guide to Plant Tissue Culture, available on Amazon. And he's joining us live in the studio today. Chris, thanks for being here.
Thank you very much, Mark.
Chris's story is one of navigating from the fringes of legality with medical marijuana to facing incarceration for being too early to the game, frankly, only to emerge and craft a path through multiple successful business ventures. His journey is a masterclass in learning that even the best plans will still sometimes kind of pivot and, maybe even fall apart a little bit. But how one rebuilds from there, well, that's where the magic happens. Chris, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Mark. I appreciate that beautiful introduction.
Thank you, man. So start off by kind of walking us through your initial foray into the medical marijuana industry, too early.
You mean the story about being a cowboy in the wild, wild west of the 1990s? Sure, definitely. In 1994, I happened to be about 14 years old and started to smoke a little bit of marijuana. And wouldn't you know, it was highly illegal at the time. There was no legislation on it in any state. Fortunately for me, what that meant was that I needed to start growing my own if I wanted to have any kind of supply. By the time that things had passed in California, Colorado, and a few other states, the need couldn't meet the supply. The demand was higher than the supply ever could be, and I was in my late teens at the time. So I reached out to a few of the dispensaries, the legal dispensaries that were out there, and said, well, who's supplying you, and do you need any more? And fortunately, the answer was, well, we're always looking for growers, and they didn't really care where it came from as long as the product was good. Happened to be that I was growing it on this side of that imaginary illegal line and not the other. And eventually that did cause a little bit of incarceration. Yeah. Yes, it did. At the time, I felt like I was an advocate for what I believed in. I believed that it was one of those natural things that we're supposed to be able to do, and the law shouldn't shut me down. So I didn't shut up. I joined NORML, joined all of the local organizations that I could get into, stood up at the podium and spoke my piece, and ended up going to prison for several years over that. I never looked at it as something that I did wrong. I looked at it as a tour of duty for something that I believed in. And that led to a whole can of worms coming home. You think you're doing the right thing when you're a teenager. Not that it was wrong, not that it was wrong at all, but it definitely made life more difficult, and I had to think on my toes quite a bit.
Yeah. And so after facing, these legal challenges and prison time, what was your mindset when you decided to restart your entrepreneurial journey and go, legit?
Well, I had a lot of time to think about it while I was in there, and by that time I had a couple of kids that were being raised without me. And the biggest part of adapting to that was trying to write the narrative. Or trying to rewrite the narrative. I knew that there would be a time coming when they would look Dad up and say, who is he? What did he do? And what kind of person is he? Because I didn't get to race him, so there was no way for them to know. All they would know is, Dad went to prison for drugs, and that's it. And I knew that for me, that wasn't something that I wanted them to know. Or not just to know, but that's not how I wanted to be viewed by them or the public. I thought about the times where my mom had to go to her local grocery store and the post office and all the little places that you go in a small town, and all the little men and women around her talking about, oh, yep, there's that nice woman over there. Too bad her son's sitting in there in prison for drugs. And I said, well, when I come home, I'd better do something more positive. I wanted to work so hard that there was nothing that they could ever find that was that guy, but something positive every time they looked for me. So that's where it led. That was the mind shift, was create positivity, create it every day, and keep pushing until there's no more push left in you.
So you decided to go with something that, is perfectly legal and brings joy to everybody. Toys.
Sure. I actually opened up multiple companies. Some of them were successful, some of them weren't. One of the later ones was toys and novelty distribution, because I believe in the family element. I believe in selling happiness, which I felt like that's what you do when it's whoopee cushions and Barbie dolls and cap guns and slime, things like that. Fantastic business, but that's what I would much rather be known for than selling drugs.
Yeah, sure. So, how did that experience and in trying to, get a cleaner image, and shed your past and that stigma that comes with, growing marijuana, even though today it's perfectly acceptable. How did that influence your approach to planning and executing new business ventures?
I was a teenager when I started going through all of this, and I really didn't have the business part of it put down. When I came home, I thought I was going to go the traditional routes of starting companies and being an entrepreneur, because let's face it, what hourly job are you going to get coming out of prison as a federal felon that's actually going to help you thrive? You're going to survive, but you may not ever thrive. And here I am in my 20s. I didn't want the rest of my life to be just surviving, right? Which meant that it didn't matter who was going to hire me, I'll hire me.
Yeah,
I'll work for myself. I'll build the dream myself. Thank God we live in America, right? Where it's the greatest country on earth that allows you to do that. It doesn't matter who you are or where you came from or what you've done. All you have to do is be able to build a plan and execute that plan. Yeah. So I did over and over and over again. Yeah. And I'm not done yet, Mark. Not done yet.
Yeah, no, certainly not. These succulents and things like this are, they've always been popular, but it seems like they're really having their day. People are buying up these, little cute plants, and my wife has like I showed it to you, the timer lights all set up, and, little drip hamster wheels for certain plants, hamster drippers for certain plants and such. This kind of industry is having its day right now. And you are, a leader in the field of doing the roots and shoots, cutting them up. And, my wife does what we both affectionately call prop lifting.
Sure.
Where, she'll be at the Home Depot and, this little baby off of this plant fell out of the pot. It's just going to get swept up and put in the trash, Certainly. So she'll pick up that little prop and put it in her purse and come home, and it looks about like that. And she drops it in a little thing on the kitchen windowsill, and next year it's having babies.
It's because of the history that I have in horticulture and botany, in having the desire to be a wizard, alchemist, a mad scientist as a child, right? That led to this. After years of being incarcerated for that, and then coming home and thinking that I needed to do something different. I'm still me. Yeah. I still love the same things. I still enjoy the same things. I'm still a history freak, a science geek, and
this wealth of knowledge on how to do all this stuff. And now you're sharing that wealth with people who are, need this. That's to do what's perfectly legal to do. And people probably have YouTube channels that are just killing it, just cutting little pieces of plants off and putting them in jars,
putting it into tissue culture. Yeah.
But you've taken it to the next level. These guys are in like hermetically sealed containers with a medium, and what you said, you just have to open that thing up about once a.
Oh, well, no, these guys are ready to be potted up that I brought you here. But no, the science behind this, that's actually what led to me, or to my crime being a federal crime. I mean, growing weed's a state crime. Sure. It's that in a tiny little 1-bedroom efficiency apartment, they got me with 1,028 plants. You can't fit 1,028 plants. The reason is 500 of them were sitting in a closet in jars.
Yeah.
And this was, well, this was before tissue culture was a thing. That wasn't even a known topic at all. You don't learn that on the regular back in at that time period. This is something I've been doing for almost 30 years
The
now.
internet was still in its infancy, and you couldn't ask Jeeves how to do tissue cultures.
There was one website that I found. It was kitchenculture.com or .org or something, and that's what it was. Is just mostly like a forum where people would post their experiments that they had done. And there was a couple of websites where you could buy certain ingredients, right? Certain things to do your recipe with. And that's where I started from. But no one, even when I got arrested, they thought it was a meth lab. Yeah, they had no idea what it was whatsoever. They called hazmat in and everything because they had never seen plants in jars. They had never seen nutrients being manufactured, not purchased from the garden center, things like that. They had never heard of plant growth hormones and regulators. That seemed something completely far-fetched to them, and it ended up being a federal crime because of the amount of it. Now, when I came home, I had no intention of being in the marijuana industry, the cannabis industry whatsoever. And in truth, after that amount of time, the industry has shifted. The money wasn't in being a grower anymore. And let's face it, the only reason I started growing is because I needed a source for weed. Well, after being gone for so long, I wasn't smoking pot anymore either, so I didn't necessarily need to grow it. That wasn't a thing for me. I never went to college, so how would I ever do some scientific job for anybody else? It wasn't a thing. So I had multiple other companies that we started and had fun with, built, bought, sold, and enjoyed. It wasn't until right around the 2020 era, when everybody was locked down, that the exotic plant collectors came to surface. People were stuck at home, so they started growing these little babies in their house, and they realized that there's a world of plants that the United States did not even have access to. And these are your exotics. They don't come from the United States. So they were being imported at super expensive rates. We have, friends that were spending thousands of dollars on cuttings, single leaf cuttings, to have them shipped over from Vietnam, Thailand, Indonesia, other parts of unknown, right? Just so that they could have that unicorn, that grail plant, the one of a kind that's in existence. And
this is the only one in Texas. Yeah.
That's it. That's it. And it was a status symbol at that point. Well, to me, that was
also, it needs its own little environment here because it's not supposed to be here.
That's right. That's right. You have to learn to grow it, learn to raise it. Now, what we've got here are plants in the final stages of tissue culture. They started off as a tiny little cell or a tiny cutting or a node, and through a hormone-induced process have been grown in a sterile media to be an exact genetic replica of the parent plant. That's what I actually do, and that's what I teach. I found that education is much more where I'd rather be. I'm not into growing fields and fields and fields of these plants. I do grow fields of plants, and I do sell quite a many plants. However, it's the education in the United States that is lacking, and that's what's actually pushed me to be a leader in the industry. Is here in this country, there are few and far between that are teaching this to other people.
So your passion's not necessarily but in mentorship.
Sure.
And,
Well, it's in the science of it all. It allows me to practice. It allows me to do the work, to do the experiments, to document the research, and to write the information, and to share the knowledge with others. I don't necessarily need to share a single plant with someone. They can go buy that at the big box store. What I want to do is impart the knowledge that it took me 30 years to get.
So you've got multiple companies, dealing with the plants and, farming and things of that nature. And then other, business ventures that branch off into completely different industries. Surely there's been some missteps, some hard lessons that you learned the hard way along the way. Can you share an example where, a major setback in one of your businesses led to an innovative solution or a business model that, something that you learned, a hard lesson you learned the hard way?
Yes, there's a couple of hard lessons. One of them is understand the market. Know the industry that you're in and understand the market. I went into an axe throwing company that sounded like a great idea. Everybody likes to throw axes, right?
During COVID, I took a job selling cabinets. We did really good, but as a team building exercise, they booked time at one of those axe throwing places. It was neat, but I'll tell you what, we were like the only people in there.
Sure.
Our group that was doing that team exercise,
That's how I got started. Somebody invited me to one, and we went there was 4 of us that went in, had a great time, and I thought, wow, that was like $20 to $25 a person. We were in there for an hour or two, had a great time. They were serving beer and pizza and whatever else it is and just having a good time. But there again, we were one of the only few. I didn't realize that at the time. That wasn't what was on my brain. My brain was, this was a great time. It's entertainment and people will pay for this. So we opened a brick and mortar to do it. And
now, was this during COVID?
Just after COVID. And it was not the time to get into a brick and mortar operation. Several of the things we had going on at the time were mobile sales ventures, mobile art ventures. We were doing a lot of things at different vendor markets and doing great. Doing absolutely fantastic. This was the first time that I had ever taken out a lease to go do a brick and mortar store, brick and mortar shop, and couldn't drive a soul into the building. Couldn't do it. Oh yeah, and I tried every marketing scheme and plan you could imagine, just couldn't get anybody to come in there and do the deal.
Yeah.
And I realized real quick that something needed to change. Thank goodness the lease wasn't that long of a term, so once it was over, we were able to sell off the assets we had in there, and we opened up a mobile axe throwing unit, which ended up being very profitable. We were able to go on to that and move into the mobile ventures that we had been doing. And from that, sell that off, make a profit, and move to the next genre or the next chapter of life. Yeah, because it was taking a loss. I mean, that was the first time in my life that I had ever been contractually bound to putting out exorbitant amount of money for something that had nothing coming in.
Yeah, you've got to be a little bit of risk adverse because there's a level of risk that comes at signing a lease on a brick and mortar location at the times when the cost per square foot for these residential real estate properties are as high as they've ever been. They're all-time highs. How do you go about managing that level of risk, especially in industries that, can be sometimes heavily regulated?
For me, it's about diversification. It really is about having your hand in multiple cookie jars. They say that the average millionaire has between 7 to 9 streams of income. I believe it. And one of the things I did when I came home, I had 37 business plans written. All of them could be started for $1,000 or less and required a little bit of work from yours truly. I didn't know anything about building teams. I didn't know anything about putting people together to make things happen. I knew that I had to work, and that was it. That was a lesson learned. You have to have a team. You have to have other people in order to truly move forward. You can survive on your own. If you really want to thrive, you have to understand how to build the teams, how to put people to work, how to delegate tasks, and how to take yourself out of the equation to make it worth something. I don't know if we discussed it earlier, but one of the things that I actually went into as far as the educational field is acquisition entrepreneurship, teaching people to buy and sell companies. After we sold our first one, I realized that that's something that the average American doesn't know how to do.
Yeah.
They don't even know you can. Small businesses, they just fail at the end of their life. When the person's been running it for 8, 10, 15, 20 years, that plumbing company, that contractor company, or construction company, and they're ready to retire, and their kids
they just kind of shutter
YouTubers.
So they just have to shutter it. But the dream is certainly to sell that business, preferably to your employees.
However, it's only saleable if it doesn't require you being there. Right. So being able to build the system that works on its own, see, that's the difference between being in business and just owning a company. Okay? A business is a system that works without you, where you get to go on vacation and it runs regardless whether or not that owner is there. Right? That was a big mental shift for me.
Yeah.
Is building a system that works without you.
Yeah. Like when I shut down Brothers Remodel and Design, in a perfect world, I would have sold the business as a whole, the name and everything. But the truth of the matter is that when somebody signed a contract with Brothers Remodel and Design, they were signing a contract with me. It was all about me. That's the only reason they were doing business with Brothers Remodel and Design, was because they were getting me. And nobody was interested in buying the company. So I had to sell the assets. At the end of the day, the company was only worth the street value of the equipment trailer and the saws and the hammers and the pneumatic tools and, the things in that equipment trailer.
That's it.
That's it.
It's interesting you say that. I did a YouTube video about 1.5 years ago to where, and I did this live. I made the phone call live on YouTube right there, and people can watch it, where I spoke to a man and brokered a deal for a $95,000 annual income, and it cost me $1,200. The whole idea is he was ready to retire. There's no one to pass it to. He just wanted to make sure that he got something until he died. That was about all. So because the business relied solely on him, it was a few assets and a few contracts that he had that was really worth nothing to the average person. But to the right person, they can do something with it. It happened to be that it was another one of these mobile ventures. It was in the toy and novelty industry. He did another product that served the same customer, same client base. So for me, it was real easy to just say, hey, I'll give you a multiplier.
No-brainer. Buy out your competition.
Sure. Well, it wasn't even competition. We actually sold 2 different types of products, but to the same customer.
But
so
I just did a roll-up further.
Yes. That's actually called a roll-up, where you will pull their product in, and now you just sell all of those things to the same clientele, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to acquire new customers or anything else. It's just rolling up another asset in it. And he was more than happy to broker that deal. By the way, that conversation live took 13 minutes.
Nice.
When you know,
I'm gonna have to watch that.
Yes, you are. I mean, the whole thing goes from start to finish. We had never spoken on the phone ever before. There was no discussion prior, other than through a mutual acquaintance. He knew that I was interested, and I got the number from him. Yeah, that was it. Yeah. And by the end of that conversation, we were both happy. He was happy getting his structured payment. We were happy taking on the additional income. And as far as workload, it was no extra workload for us. It's just one other place we're ordering products from.
Yeah.
That was it. It's a super simple thing. But be diversified is that whole, key to what we're talking about.
Sure.
Because shit does hit the fan.
Yeah.
Like in real life, man, markets turn, customers, dip out.
Yeah.
You lose contracts. Sometimes you just screw up.
Yeah. Let's explore some examples of that. Each of your companies, from farmer to seems to, at some point you have to kind of pivot the plan a little bit,
Certainly.
Can you discuss one significant pivot that you had to make and how it led to a success?
Sure.
Besides the axe throwing thing that was great.
If I was still a pig farmer, I'd be starving to death right now. We came into a little piece of property.
Is China putting pig farmers out of business?
Oh, it's Tyson. That's who's doing it. Yeah, right here in the United States. But it's because your pork sells for like 88 cents a pound on auction. Okay. That was never part of my business plan. My whole plan started like this. We had a little piece of property, and I don't believe in paying taxes and everything else without making money, right? I need to pay for itself. Whatever asset I've got needs to pay for itself.
So you're going for the ag exemption.
Yeah, and I bought a few pigs and said, okay, we're going to raise pastured pork. Now, this is during the whole COVID lockdown, and then shortly after, I looked at the market trends, where always do your market research when you're looking to build a business plan. Mm-hmm. And it said, well, the average pig farmer gets 88 cents a pound at auction, but your pastured pork operation makes $12 to $18 a pound, and you don't have to pay to feed it because it's pastured. What? That's right. So no brainer. Go get some pigs and sell them as pastured pork. So the next thing I did was looking to see how much competition do I have in the area. And the area I'm in is a city of 2.5 million people. No competition. The next question is, why is there no competition? Found out there's several reasons why. First of all, here in this part of Texas, look, there's all kinds of restrictions in almost every neighborhood because pigs can be invasive. They can be destructive to property and everything else. So a lot of areas do not even allow them in. Well, what that does is opens the market for somebody like me. So I said, hey, this is a blue ocean territory. I can get in there with zero competition, kill the market, and everybody at that time was ordering food, okay, straight to their door. They were happy to have Butcher Box and all these other companies, Chewy.com, for their dogs.
We use Chewy.com.
Yeah. I mean, it was a major thing.
So I've done the factor meals in the past. Yeah.
There you go. So that's exactly was my plan. Now, what I didn't realize is that your average American does not consume that much pork every single month, right? So being able to sell it at $12 to $18 a pound, sure, it's possible. Until you're butchering 40 at a time, and where are you going to sell in the lifespan? You have a shelf life on everything you butcher.
Uh-huh.
And I just didn't know how to sell it, didn't know what to do, and could not possibly keep going with that. I was going to run myself into debt just feeding them.
Yeah.
So we ended up having to butcher off, sell off, and be done. I mean, sometimes you just got to know when to stop.
Yeah.
Know when to hold them, know when to fold them.
Gotcha. Yeah. How do you ensure, clear communication with all your stakeholders and your team and everything when, a plan kind of starts to have to shift?
I think that all comes to the formation of the company and the formation of relationships when it comes to business. If you want to be clear and times are not clear, there needs to be some writing. There needs to be contracts put in place. There needs to be standard operating procedures so that people understand what to do, when to do, and how to do it. In the event of XYZ, this is what happens. That's what a good plan has. It has fail-safes. It has risk management already incorporated from day one so that you know what to do and so that everyone else knows how to pivot. When it comes to a partnership agreement, that's a big thing. By the way, contracts, if I've got a piece of advice, learn to write and read contracts fluently, excuse me. Read and write contracts. Understand their meanings, what they are, because they will be the guiding point of everything that you do in that business and keep you with a reputable name when things do go awry, because they do go awry. We've had partnerships that you have to dissolve because in the end, the company just wasn't making it. No one's happy with it. But because it's written into the agreement, we understand when we hit these margins, it's time to close shop.
Yeah. Have that exit strategy in mind and contingencies in place. Yeah, that's great advice.
Now, that's for clear communication. It's just have it in writing. I'm not always the most articulate person. I like to talk, and sometimes I talk too much, but in order to get the straight point across, it can be hard sometimes, especially when things aren't going right and you don't know what to say and you feel like saying anything is the wrong thing. That's why you put the things in the contract, so that you can point to Article 4, Section B.
As a project manager in residential remodeling and, dealing with homeowners who oftentimes still live in the house while you're working on it, sometimes you run into situations where it's like, well, I thought this was going to be included, or I didn't, this isn't something that we specifically talked about, but, can you do it anyway? And at the end of the day, sometimes you got to tell people, per the terms of our contract, this is what I can help you with, unless you're willing to amend that contract, and sign a change order or something, you know what I mean? There can be difficult conversations that have to be had at times like that. Do you have any kind of advice for having those difficult conversations?
Do it with a smile. Do it with a smile. Look, one thing I learned years and years ago, it doesn't matter if it's a good day or a bad day. Put a smile on. Pretend you're at McDonald's and put a freaking smile on. And it really does change the world. Having a positive attitude and being that guiding light, the bright shining star in the room when things are dark, can really make things go in a much more positive way. It takes away the heat. It takes away the animosity between people when you just come at it with a positive disposition.
Sure, yeah. So looking back, what do you hope your journey teaches others about resilience and entrepreneurial spirit?
Never let your past dictate your future. Be not only determined, but be disciplined. Just because you're determined doesn't mean that you're willing to do everything that it takes. And training yourself to do those things on a daily basis, whether it's fun or not, whether you're enjoying it or not, whether it's hard or not, that's part of the building process, and that's what makes someone or breaks someone when they hit those hard times and they still push through. Know when to pivot. Know when to change the plan. One thing in business that I learned a long time ago was a business plan is an ever-evolving document. It's something that should be changing on a regular basis. You work it until the plan has difficulties, and then you reevaluate and see if you need to change that plan, and be fluid. Be ready to make those changes.
What's your advice for someone whose business plan is, starting to unravel, and how would they know when to pivot, and how do they do it effectively?
For me, it's about being diversified and having multiple things going on at one time. We're all multifaceted people. You shouldn't be stuck doing one single thing. Hopefully, in any of your times of life, you've done multiple jobs, you've learned multiple skills, and you have multiple interests. I say interests because to me, that's what it is. It's not about the jobs and the skills. It's what do I like to do?
Sure.
How do I want to spend my life? I want to spend it.
Yeah, I wouldn't be sitting here recording this conversation with you if I didn't like talking to you.
Exactly.
So, don't have all your eggs in one basket. And, when plans start to unravel,
have other things in the works.
Toss out the bad egg, right?
That's it. Get rid of it sometimes. Sometimes you just need to put it on a shelf for a little while. Sometimes they don't need to go away.
Pickled eggs are good.
That's it. I've got a few things now that I've started and put on a back burner because I believe that they are a solid plan. This just may not be the right timing for it, so you don't necessarily have to close them down.
Yeah.
Just to understand where you're at with them and be honest with yourself. Understand that most businesses, no matter what you're doing, has a lifespan. That's just the truth of the matter. Your average small business is 8 to 10 years if you make it past the 2 and 5 year hurdle. If you make it past the 2-year hurdle, you got a 5-year hurdle. If you make it past that 5, then you're in it for the long haul then. But what's the long haul? 8 to 10 on average. Yeah. So knowing that helps you not go into that dark place. Yeah. Not feeling like the failure when things are unraveling, because they may not be unraveling. They may just be coming to an end. Yeah. Time to move to the next chapter, but know what that next chapter is.
Yeah. Yeah. have a contingency.
That's it.
You know, a couple of years ago, it used to be anybody could be a general contractor with the city of San Antonio. You know, you just go get your insurance and go, you know, fill out some paperwork and pass that FBI background check saying that you're not burglarizing people's homes, and they'd let you, you know, be a contractor for the city. Well, a couple of years ago, they changed that, so you had to have some kind of license. So they started accepting all these different licenses from the International Code Commission. One of the ones that they would accept is the residential building inspector license. So I know the codes pretty well. I've been doing this a long time. So I went and got the code book, studied, and went and took the test and got that license. So now I'm technically a licensed code inspector, in addition to, you know, licensed contractor with the city of San Antonio. But then I got to thinking, you know what? Why stop there? I went and signed up at Champion School of Real Estate in San Antonio and started taking lessons to get licensed with the Texas Real Estate Commission to do real estate inspections. So now, in addition to, you know, being a project manager for this big construction company that's, you know, nationwide, we're actually on the remodeler, one of those remodeling magazines, top 500 in the nation.
Sure.
We're like number 43 or something. But anyway, I'm also a licensed building inspector and a licensed real estate inspector. I don't do that I don't make money with those licenses, but
Sure.
if I get laid off tomorrow, on Friday, on Monday morning, after, you know, a little bit of paperwork is done with the bank and I've got some insurance in place, I'm gonna have my own little inspection company going. You know what I mean? I'll be fine because I got a plan.
I'm all about education. I'll tell you, that is something that I do push for. Now, I don't necessarily preach about degrees or going to college. Certifications and going for skill sets that you want to push forward in your life, definitely. That's why when you read on the back of the book, it says that I went to, or that I've studied at Texas A&M and Lamar University in the fields of entomology, land and ranch development, beef cattle operations, because all of these things play into the horticulture, the botany, the things that I've enjoyed doing my entire life. And now, having those certifications and having studied at actual real universities gives credibility in a field where if I was just Joe Blow, it wouldn't have it. You just wouldn't have it. And it's certifiable. It's there. There's the piece of paper on the wall that says I went and did it. And we're going to go be a land and ranch manager. I don't want a beef cattle operation. I don't care about pest control on a major scale. I never wanted to be an exterminator, but I did need to know these things if I wanted to understand natural plant conservation and preservation. If I wanted to understand how to regulate the growth of certain types of plants or animals in a specific area, which now that's a big part of what we do. That's the basis behind all these cool little test tube plants, is understanding the growth hormones and regulators that your average Joe doesn't know what it takes to bring something like that into fruition.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to be a real estate inspector, you know. I do pre-sale renovations and I see a lot of inspection reports. And in getting that license, I've come to understand why some of these things show up on inspection reports. But it's usually because the Texas Real Estate Commission said that it has to be there.
Certainly. But it's good to have them, you know, in your back pocket. You've got those 100%. Under your belt, and no one can ever take that away from you.
Yeah.
Sure.
All right, Chris, do you have any closing thoughts? And is there anything that you'd want to plug? And, you know, be sure to tell the listeners where they can find more about you.
Yes, there is. As a matter of fact, we've got to say it one more time. Folks, Roots and Shoots, the complete guide to plant tissue culture, as well as Tissue Culture Basics, a step-by-step guide. These are written for average Joe. They are small books with digestible pieces of content so that you, too, can benefit from 30 years of experience and trial and error experience and failures.
Lessons learned the hard way.
Lessons learned the hard way on how to and not to do tissue culture. If you're interested in exotic plants, rare plants, uncommon plants from around the world, and how to grow them on a mass scale, this book is the book for you. You can find Father Nature's Unique Botanicals, which is the company that I'm currently operating, on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and whatnot.
Yeah, no, you've got a pretty big YouTube presence.
Thank you.
Some of your videos have like a fucking ton of views. Tell the people where they can find you on YouTube.
On YouTube, Father Nature's Unique Botanicals. You can also find me at Christopher C. Day. Well, I keep two different channels because they're two different things. Christopher C. Day was that was business and entrepreneurship, leadership.
Yeah.
Plant people don't care about that.
Yeah.
But they do love Father Nature's Unique Botanicals, and we go into some very advanced and in-depth detail when it comes to the nerdy, geeky plant science of things.
Yeah, I have 2 YouTube channels too. There's this one, and then I'm a songwriter, so there's that page. I keep them separate.
Yeah.
So by all means, please go follow, cross-contaminate. I'd appreciate that. Chris, your story has been an incredible testament to the idea that even when the best plans fall apart, be it, market conditions shifting or, federal laws shifting, there's an opportunity to rebuild something even stronger.
Certainly.
You've shown us how to navigate through the storms of business with resilience, adaptability, and an unwavering spirit of innovation. Your journey from adversity to multiple successes is not just inspiring, but it's a lesson in the art of entrepreneurship. Thank you for sharing your insights with us today on the Hard Knock University podcast.
Thank you very much, Mark. I've appreciated being here, and thank you for watching, liking, sharing, and subscribing to the channel.
That's right. To our listeners, remember, it's not about the plan itself, but about how we adapt when it falls apart. Keep learning, keep adapting, and never stop building. Until next time, this has been the Hard Knock University podcast. All right, y'all, it's time for listener feedback, where you bring the heat with your stories of hard lessons learned the hard way. I love seeing what you're sharing with hashtag Hard Knock Lessons on X, so keep those gems coming for a chance to be featured right here. This week's theme is all about adaptation, and wow, have you got some doozies that fit the bill. First up, we've got @ProjectGuru77 tweeting, "Took a job thinking I had it all mapped out. Scope, timeline, budget. Day one, the client changed everything. Had to scrap the plan and wing it. Adaptation ain't pretty, but it got us there. Hashtag Hard Knock Lessons." Man, I feel that one in my bones. Projects can flip on a dime like a pancake at a bad brunch, and it's brutal when your perfect blueprint turns into confetti overnight. My advice, lean into the chaos. Keep your core goals in sight, but don't be afraid to sketch a new map on the fly. Flexibility is your superpower here. Use it to turn that curveball into a home run, or at least a double if you're playing it safe. Next up, we've got DIY Renegade, who posted, "Renovating my kitchen, found mold behind the cabinets. Plan A, done. Had to rip it all out and start over. Learned quick. Sometimes you got to ditch the script. Hashtag Hard Knock Lessons." Oof, that's a gut punch. Mold's the ultimate curveball, right? It's like finding a surprise guest at a dinner party who's had too much to drink. Here's what I tell you. When the unexpected hits, don't freeze. Pivot fast. Assess the damage, rally your crew, and treat it like a fresh start. Document what went wrong so next time you're not just reacting, you're anticipating. And remember, every moldy moment is just a lesson in disguise. I love hearing how y'all adapt to life's wild twists. Keep those stories coming with hashtag Hard Knock Lessons. Whether it's a project gone rogue or a DIY disaster, you're showing us how to roll with it and come out stronger, like a superhero who just learned to fly. All right, folks, that's a wrap on the Art of Adaptation here at the Hard Knock University podcast. Today we got down and dirty with the messy truth of project management. Plans fall apart, and that's just life. We had Gwyneth Paltrow's silky tones via Speechify guiding us through Chapter 8 of the Hard Knock School of Project Management. Lesson 7, the best plans will still fall apart. Who knew a house could have so much drama? We watched as the old house reborn transformed chaos into a comeback with enough flexibility and grit to rival a Yoga Master. We also dove into Immunity to Change by Robert Keegan, unlocking the secret vault of why we fight change like it's a bad haircut and how to bust through those mental barriers like a wrecking ball through a wall. And let's not forget Chris Day, our serial entrepreneur buddy, who dropped some real talk on pivoting like a pro when the universe decides to throw curveballs your way. Because when life gives you lemons, you better know how to make a margarita. Now, let's look ahead to next week. Get ready for the epilogue episode. It's episode 10, and it's coming at you. We're flipping the script. My brother Seth Caples is taking the mic to grill me on all 7 hard lessons from the Hard Knock School of Project Management. It's a recap of the wild ride we've been on, tying it all together like a good old-fashioned bow on a gift you hope nobody returns. Our book of the week is The Hard Thing About Hard Things, covering practical wisdom for managing the tough problems they don't teach you about in leadership school. Here's my final thought for the week. In project management, adaptation isn't just a skill, it's your lifeline. Plans, they're like sandcastles, beautiful till the tide rolls in. And when that tide hits, whether it's a busted pipe, a permit snag, or a budget blowout, your real strength shines through. It's not about sticking to the script, it's about rewriting it on the fly, like a mad scientist in a lab coat. You're the one who turns crap into we got this, keeping the team fired up and the vision alive. Every curveball is a chance to flex your creativity. Every setback, a lesson to sharpen your edge. Don't dread the chaos. Dance with it like nobody's watching. Be the glue when things crack and the spark when the fire is fading. Because here's the truth. The best projects aren't the ones that go perfectly. They're the ones where you adapt, you overcome, and you come out together on the other side like a phoenix rising from the ashes, or at least like a slightly singed marshmallow that still tastes great. So next time your plan's in pieces, take a breath and ask, how can I make this work? Or what's this teaching me? You're not just managing a project, you're mastering the art of bending without breaking. That's the Hard Knock way. Thanks for riding with us through the halls of Hard Knock University. Keep learning, keep adapting, and until next time, stay scrappy, stay sharp, and keep turning chaos into triumph. Now go out there and make those sandcastles resilient against the tide.